America, America, God shed his love on me, thee, grace thee, and crown thy. Yeah. From sea to shine. Man, listen. We got a problem here in America. And as long as you keep living, boy, you all are going to keep seeing the problem that we have. We will always be divided until the day comes when Jesus comes and his feet hit Mount Zion or the Mount of Olives. And I don't know if America will be here. Can we talk about that in about 60?
You good. You good. You good. You good. Don't stop it.
Bass.
It's the show that will get you thinking, and where the topics are hot. Feel free to comment whether we agree or not, 'cause he's got something to say.
Sirwalterj, Sirwalterj.
He's got something to say. Sirwalterj.
Report live 7 days a week, always on time, but his time is not free. Sirwalterj, always on fleek. Latest trending topics, how you jumping out your seat.
He's got something to say.
Come on in. The water's fine.
Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj Jones Show. I'm here. It is the weekend edition, baby. Hi, always come in, Waterfine. Y'all doing all right? Good to see you, Bunkers, Henry, Beatrice, Willie, April, Cassie, Vanessa. Hey, y'all all right? So good to see you. Sunkiss, you a blessing every day. Every day you bless us in the super chat. I don't know. We're going to have to celebrate you somehow, some way, some form, some fashion. Today is a day that will live in infamy. Donald Trump strikes again. But see, this is not about Donald Trump. This is about America, the fabric, the foundation of America, and it's all in it. The fabric of the clothing of it. It's in the skin. You could tell when somebody is who drinks a lot of alcohol or maybe smoke either weed or cigarettes or something, even pipes and cigars. It's in their skin. America, it's in your skin. And I think America got a problem. I'm going to tell you what that problem is at the end here. But the first initial attack from Donald Trump was something that was not a surprise attack. We're just acting like it's a surprise attack, and it's called diversity, equity, and inclusion. What he is doing is just basically following the book, which is the 2025 book that we talked about. We did the show on it. And he denied it, and other folks tried to deny it too. But it's almost to the T that he is following the 2025 white nationalistic manual to the T, and hiding. I think one of the greatest things that happen to someone who might be a bigot or a racist is the ability to use something that is hidden in plain sight and use that as a way to attack what you've always hated, and that is someone that you hate because of the color, their culture, where they live, which is xenophobia. So it was written in and embedded in the pages of Project 2025. So DEI, if it was all about black people, period, would have been a difficult thing for the Trump administration to attack. But because it had women and other minors in there and LGBTQIA in there, it was easier than to attack it because it doesn't, they think we're boo-boo the food. We're not attacking black people, we're just attacking the system because it's not based off of, your meritocracy. Your ability, to go through the ranks. And you've gone through school, you've gone through proper training, and you've been commissioned to do these jobs. So they attacked it based off of many of the rhetoric that we might have heard from conservative media during the 4 years of Biden administration. They were waiting and preparing and planning for 4 years to attack what's called woke. You understand? It was a brilliant way to come together and map this thing out and attack it the way they're doing it, and it's working, yet it's not. So if you have a black face, you are being erased from empowerment. And so somebody's playing chess and somebody's playing checkers. Who is? Thank you, Ronnie. One of the greatest things you told me was you'll see me tomorrow. He said he don't do politics on Sunday. Funny thing about that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave Ronnie alone about Sunday. I'm gonna leave him alone. I'm gonna leave you alone. So I found a video on Mitch McConnell. It's kind of funny because this is not about Donald Trump. This is about his birthing canal. It's about the history of America, imperialism of America. It's about manifest destiny. It's about Andrew Jackson. It's about the Trail of Tears. That's what it's about. And it has never died. It just wears another coat. But it has a coat of many colors now. I found this on YouTube.
What's your message for voters of color who are concerned that without the John L. Lewis Voting Rights Act, they're not going to be able to vote in the midterm?
Well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. A recent survey.
African Americans vote in a higher percentage than Americans. Did you hear that? Let me rewind this so that you can understand what he's saying here. You see, what's happening here in America is that many whites, not all of them, but many of the suspicious, the ones that we kind of know, they are not, and I don't know if they even see this. It's not even a dog whistle anymore. Ronald Reagan was at least smart. He got caught off guard too by some of the things he said. He forgot what he was, and then he went back to hiding. And a lot of racist stuff is hidden in policies and in bills and in laws and what have you. But the usual suspects today are not hiding anything. No. They are literally telling you in your face, we don't want you here. We don't want you here. Mitch McConnell and people like him who are old and frail, like America. I'll tell you who America is in a minute. When you get a certain age, you begin to talk from your heart. And it's difficult to hide your hatred and your discrimination and bigotry and xenophobia. It's harder now because it's in you, and as a man, what's in the man's heart, it will actually come through his lips. The scriptures use the words, so is he. So when this man speaks, so is he. You understand? So Mitch said what he said. He meant it. And then he walked away as if What was wrong with what I said? So let's play it again.
What's your message for voters of color who are concerned that without the John L. Lewis Voting Rights Act, they're not going to be able to vote in the midterm?
Well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. A recent survey, 94% of Americans thought it was easy to vote. This is not a problem.
Y'all heard that, right? It was right there in your face. All right? It was right there in your face. And sometimes you just got to watch, pay attention. Now, then he goes back and tries to fix it, and I don't know what happened.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
I want to take an opportunity outset here to address the outrageous mischaracterization of my history and record on voting rights and race relations as a result of inadvertently leaving out the word almost in my comments the other day. Thanks a lot.
She was like, "Hey, bruh, you still did not fix your last controversial comment. Old man, get back on the microphone and make us look good."
The omitted word is all.
Oh, all.
Not almost. Sorry.
All. I tell you. White America, we see you. We see you.
Excuse me?
So I did a video, I don't know when was it, 2009 maybe, where I did a prophetic word with something that I just didn't always do. I never called myself a prophet. But I remember doing this show, you all, and I was talking about judges. I'll find that in a minute. Beatrice. Today, topic is separation, segregation. That is same thing. Back in America. Well, it never really left. If you live in the South, you see it. If you live in Chicago, it's still here. Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the entire country. It might be 2 or number 1. And it's amazing how segregated it is where we live and where we shop and where we worship. It's extremely segregated. And the South have a lot of segregation in it, even in the school system. You know, they have proms that are segregated in the South. I've heard about graduations that are segregated still in the South. So the mandate in the 1964 Civil Rights Bill, I'm going to read something from there. It changed what we all see on television and in our neighborhoods or what have you. It changed some things. So now you got to take down the signs, but you can't take down the heart. You cannot regulate hatred. You can't erase hatred by putting it in a bill. You can't. So what happens with America is that they do things to make you feel better about living in this country, to make you feel better about yourself and make you feel better about the politicians that are there. And it is a perceived magic trick. It's a deceptive ploy that works. DEI was a direct attack towards African Americans. I need you to know that. But they were so glad that other minorities and gays and what have you were within the DEI scope so that they can attack the whole thing and then hide their hands. But it really was, and still is, attack against blacks. And it is so in your face because Jackie Robinson got erased. He got erased. And other African Americans who were part of the American experience in history, I don't know what's going on, must have been something I ate, got erased. And because they got erased, people, white and black, said, you took that, you realize what you did? Oh, we made a mistake. We made a mistake. And then they put it back up. They only put it back up because of the backlash. Y'all understand? So the Civil Rights Bill Act of 1964 is what's in question here. We all know about it. Landmark civil rights. I'm reading this. Labor law, United States outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, and sex and national origin, and it prohibits unequal application of voter registration requirements, racial segregation in schools and public accommodations and employment discrimination. And the act remains one of the most significant legislative achievements in American history. But you need to know that the bill had a big problem. The biggest problem in that bill is that too many white folks had their hands in the pot. Too many had their hands in the pot. And as you look down in the history of it and you go and you back it up and you see the history of some type of civil rights bill or act or what have you, you go back to 1883, landmark civil rights cases with the Supreme Court. Just some jacked up stuff, y'all. But then there was the 1957 civil rights under Dwight D. Eisenhower. All right, it was not perfect. It had problems and it had holes in it. Then you go further to 1963's Kennedy civil rights bill. He just couldn't pass it. I mean, it included provisions to ban discrimination in public accommodations and enable the United States Attorney General to, join lawsuits against state governments that operated segregation, blah, blah, blah. So he was nervous. It did not include a number of provisions civil rights leaders deemed essential, including protection against police brutality. Whoa, we can't do that. Ending discrimination in private employment and grafting the Justice Department's power to initiate desegregation or job discrimination lawsuits. All this stuff. He said, no, we can't. That's too much. That's too much. And then we get to the lobbying, and then Lyndon Baines Johnson came on the scene, and he was able to do something that our African American civil rights leaders had pushed him for, and he had a hard time getting it done. Trying to get it to pass Senate. It was a lot, y'all, going on. Then comes the women's rights. 1 year earlier, the same Congress had passed the Equal Pay Act in 1963. I'll talk about that on Patreon this week. All right? But there was an issue with the busing because there were some political repercussions on this based off of the busing issue. The bill divided both major American political parties and endangered a long-term change in the demographics of the support for each. President Kennedy realized that supporting the bill would risk losing the South's overwhelming support of the Democratic Party. He says, I can't. And then a couple of the senators were saying, it is forcing you all to bus people into neighborhoods that don't want these people based off of their skin color or their race. These bills, y'all, have always been a problem. So the reason why I'm going live today has a lot to do with, is history repeating itself or is it just rhyming? A Trump administration removes ban on segregated facilities in federal contracts. Black folks, I need you all to do your history or your research, that is. Do your research just a little bit more, because this is not about segregation. This is not really about the 1964 total bill. Yet it is an attack towards it. It's decon rat poison. Decon rat poison have 95 or 99% good food. It's only 1% poison. And it is the 1% that kills the rat. It is the 99% that attracts the rat. It only takes 1% to kill somebody. You understand? So March 18, the administration under Donald Trump has removed an explicit ban on segregated facilities like waiting rooms, restaurants, and drinking fountains for federal contractors. A memo issued by the United States General Services Administration showed. The memo was issued last month, but media outlets took note on it Tuesday after the report. This is NPR. Now, why is this important? Since taking office in January 20, Trump has taken multiple steps aimed at dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. You can't do it because you going to rock the boat. Don't tip the boat, baby. Like trying to isolate America. You can't do it. We have become a superpower because we have been meddling. We've got military bases all over the world. And everything that we have and own are through imports. And we can't survive without exports. And everything we got is attached, that is, to other nations, whether they are enemies or whether they are allies. You cannot isolate America without America imploding. This is how other nations have imploded. Tried to be isolated. And if you isolate yourself, you are going to do it at the harm of the people who live in that nation, and you will starve them and wipe them out. And only the wealthy would survive. Only the oligarchs would survive. The problem with America is its inability to understand history. You keep forgetting it. You keep forgetting it. So you're attacking something that got too big. Barack Obama could not shut down or fine or put CEOs in prison, all that stuff, because of the 2008 housing bubble and what have you, all those banks. He had to save those banks. You know why he had to save those banks? Take a big fat guess why Barack Obama had to save those banks by using your tax money to save this very institution that helped you to lose your 401k and your pension funds. And your house. Guess what he had to do? Y'all got it. The banks were too big to fail. So he had to save them. It was too late to punish them. You understand? So in one such executive order, Donald Trump got hundreds of them. Trump revoked executive policies dating far back as 1965 on equal employment opportunities, environmental actions designed to protect communities of color, and workforce balances efforts by federal contractors based on race and gender and religion. So the 1965 action claimed to end discrimination practices in hiring and employment on the part of the U.S. government contractors, you all. This is not about every store out there now going to put up a whites only sign. No, do your homework. The February 15 memo said it was making changes prompted by that executive order. The memo stated that when issuing new solicitations or contracts, civil agencies should no longer include the provision and clause about the prohibition of segregated facilities. Do y'all understand what that means? What they're saying, federal and state laws still outlaw discrimination and segregation. Just know that. And while the memo step was symbolic, civil rights advocates noted it as part of a trend with Trump's policymaking. They said that any step that may give the perception of turning back the clock on racial segregation, that wasn't welcome, y'all. Segregation is still illegal. Just know it. This change sends a clear message, civil rights attorney Ben Crumb says. Rights advocates say measures Trump is trying to dismantle aimed to uplift marginalized groups and address the continued efforts of historical and generational inequity. Trump and his allies defend his action by saying his order aimed to remove what they call discrimination against other Americans. Can y'all tell me who those other Americans are? You guessed it, white men and white people in general. That's what this is all about. That's what this has always been about. It's about white men. Not just white people, specifically white men. America is suffering with a really bad case of dementia and Alzheimer's. Y'all understand? White men are suffering with a really bad case of dementia and Alzheimer's because they keep forgetting their history, and they're forgetting their history on purpose. Y'all remember after slavery ended? And, there was a thing about reparations, 40 acres and a mule. Well, guess who got the reparations? Take a wild guess. Reparations. Africans were enslaved for all those years. They were freed, and the government came together and took that money and bailed out the slave owner. It was a stimulus check because they were losing. It was basically a recession, maybe a depression. Y'all, that's some serious history right there. So I remember doing a show in 2019, February 2019, and I talked about the prophecies. I remember this like it was yesterday. I woke up and I kept hearing the title Judge. God is going to use judges. He's going to use judges. He's returning back to judges. I don't know if anybody remember that. Well, I asked my staff to help me out. I'm going to see if I can play this. I don't know if it's going to play or not. Because I need you all to see that it made sense from 2019 until today how important judges were. From the time I gave this prophetic word or word of knowledge, judges have been in the news more than almost any time in recent histories. I mean, it's crazy. Pastor dies, but God is also removing the Joshua generation is over. It's time for the judges. The judges have entered in, and God is going to use them, male and female, and God is going to judge you and your churches, and he's going to judge the nations. Oh, I hear him speaking. He's also going to utilize those who are in politics. It is really not about Donald Trump. God allowed this, his permissive will has allowed this Trump to enter in and become the president, but it's not about Donald Trump. Understand, it's about the men and women around him. God is going to use the president's men to shake things up. I think y'all remember that? 2019. He is going to use the men, all the president's men. You see, Project 2025 is part of all the president's men. And being able to put judges in there, Donald Trump put how many judges in there? About 3. I said male and female. Did I not say that? Mitch McConnell held up Barack Obama's Merrick Garland. Remember that? To open up the door for Donald Trump. Y'all remember that? So this is not about Donald Trump. We keep focusing on the wrong guy. People are in power based off of who gave them that power. Who gave it to them? You did. America. America, this is you. You gave them that power. I remember then in 2022, January the 7th, I found a Facebook post. And by the way, staff, Facebook is getting ready to delete all of our live shows on June the 7th, I think it is. So every Sirwalterj Jones show that I ever did on live Facebook will be deleted. Facebook is doing that. They're cleaning up. They're wiping their hard drives clean. So I'm going to have to find a day and to go into Facebook and find any videos that I can try and download that needs to go maybe up on YouTube or just put it on the hard drive. I don't know. But you won't be able to search Facebook anymore for any of the Sirwalterj Jones shows. And once you go live, those lives will be up there for only 30 days and then they're gone. So that is an email that I just got today. I have been blessed, though, to know that I needed 2 platforms. Thank God for YouTube. So most of the Sirwalterj Jones shows that may go back to 2019, most of them should be on YouTube. But prior to 2019 going back, a lot of them never made it to YouTube. All right, so that's the joy of not owning platforms. African Americans, black folks, you all are nervous about what America is getting ready to do to you. And segregation. And if you go on YouTube and go on Instagram and go on TikTok, you're going to see a whole lot of videos. Yes, Marshall, YouTube is safe. You can go to and see a whole lot of videos of African Americans saying, it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. We can segregate. We don't need you, white folk. We can. It gives an opportunity to shop in our own neighborhoods. Blah blah blah. Let me tell y'all, fools, something. Let me tell y'all, fools, something. You ain't got nothing in your neighborhood that you own. If segregation happened in a larger scale than these contracts with the government, which your taxes are paying for these contracts, and then he's saying it's okay to put up a whites only. Thank you, Elle. I love you. Tommy, you ain't got no job. You ain't got nothing. You don't own nothing in your neighborhood. Just go up and down your neighborhood and look at the stores. Come on. You black, and it was all young, these millennials and Gen Zs on Instagram and TikTok saying, we don't care, we don't need you, and none of them own. I need to find the beat button because I wanted to cuss right there. I needed the beat button so bad. None of them own nothing. And all that blah, blah, blah they was doing is like how we used to do when my brother was on the block. As long as my big brother was on the block, we talked all kind of crap. Huh? You ain't gonna do nothing. What? Hold me, Mike, hold me. You ain't gonna do nothing. With the hopes that Michael would keep holding me. Because if Michael let me go, hey. That's what these young folks are doing. We don't care about you. We don't need your white stuff, and we don't need this. We don't need that. And if this ever happened, them same lib folks will starve to death. Audrey, they would starve to death. You ain't got nothing that you own. You know how I know you ain't got nothing that you own? I think I'm dry. Because you're trying to boycott places that you need, like Walmart and Target and these other places that was on the list. You would not need to boycott these places if you had built your own. You can't even go to your own bank. Most of your cities, you just don't. How many banks in America? Black banks, 20 something? You don't own crap. So I'm watching these videos. Don't worry, y'all. The show will be over in just a few minutes because it's movie night, so I can't go long. So I take care of this little cough going on. Where can I find some of these videos? Okay, let's see if we can find some of them. They are absolutely ridiculous, y'all. Let me see. Some of these I can't play because they're laced with profanity. But they are some of the dumbest things people say. Yeah, right here.
Okay, breaking news, wake it up, because I don't see enough people talking about this. Trump has lifted the segregation ban, y'all. That means that segregation is now legal. Hello, segregation ban law has been lifted by Trump.
What can you threaten black people with that we haven't?
This is Democracy Now!
Hit the wrong button. I mean, this went on, y'all.
Haven't already lived through before. We had our families separated. It is.
You gonna go and segregate us? Hurry the fuck up.
And all
bring it back. I want to know where I'm not welcome. Okay, put them signs back up. Colors only, whites only. Let's do it. All right. What are you talking?
100%.
You know we can do better. Oh, and let's not forget, black women are still the most educated.
Ownership to our means of.
I don't think they have learned yet. This fuck around and find out just really has not hit them yet. They don't get it. I'm sorry, not the mean.
My ancestors. Thirdly, we got money. So, white people, y'all can let this man fool y'all if y'all want to. Understand, we ain't at war with each other. We at war with Donald Trump. Y'all can mess up and find out. Y'all can I'm telling y'all.
Nobody finna do no stupid shit like that. And let me tell you something. If we going back to colored only bathrooms and white only bathrooms, our shit gonna be clean. Cause one thing about black people, we some clean motherfuckers.
I live in Alabama. Segregation ain't never went nowhere anyway. While we're on the conversation of segregation.
White owned, and it says whites only. What do you do then? What do you do then? But then, it's a possibility that our stuff might get vandalized if we say, oh, well, you know, it's that you grew up in used to be there.
Oh, yeehaw. Let's read your pregunta. Did you see they are encouraging segregation? Now listen, escuche. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Okay, ho. Listen, I don't want to be around a motherfucker who don't want to be around me, bitch. But equal.
You'll also have your own place where your children can be discriminated.
You know, I watched our young people today, and it makes me vomit what they have turned into. And none of these folks own nothing. They don't own nothing. They just talking and for views. And if that thing ever happened, they'd be the one crying. Like many of these MAGA folks who voted for Donald Trump, and then they're fired now. And now they're back on this platform called social media crying. Black businesses had to move out the neighborhoods because you wasn't supporting them. Walmart came to town and you took your money over there, and the black businesses closed down one by one by one, and then the only business in town was the Walmart. And then the Walmart says, you Negroes steal too much. And in Chicago, they shut down 3 or 4 Walmarts. And those same neighborhoods were like, now where do we go? You can't go back to the black businesses that was there. Walmart ran them out of your neighborhoods. And some of those neighborhoods became returned back to food deserts. And now you're going to do all this talking here? Please. You don't want this. You don't want this. And all of those amazing, their great grandparents died. They became strange fruit. Who was that who sang that song? Strange Fruit, the jazz singer. For you young people, that means hanging on a tree. They died so that that bill could be signed and so that we could have some sense of freedom. It's not about separate. It's about equality. And so, yeah. So I remember writing this thing here. Thank you, Billie Holiday. I think Nina Simone did a rendition of it too, Christopher. She did, didn't she? Nina did a rendition of it, but I think Billie did it first. You all correct me. I think Billie did it first, and then Nina came around and did it. Well, Billie Holiday is older. Her time was much older than Nina, so Nina must have did a remake of it. So the pandemic then came. Mm-hmm. The pandemic came, and it showed us further who wasn't ready. Wasn't ready. The pandemic came and shut down many of the churches. The churches who had made a lot of money on tithes and offerings. And those same churches who were dancing and shouting and speaking in tongues and foaming at the mouth and bragging on all this, all that, when the pandemic came and it had to shut down for a few weeks, guess what happened? Gone. Yeah, this is true. Said it was written by Billie Holiday. Gone. Some of those churches never returned. They couldn't afford to survive. They couldn't. Now that's a shame, ain't it? It's a shame. So you crying about segregation coming back, but you forgot that when the pandemic came, black churches couldn't survive because you had not taught the people how to invest. No emergency money. You didn't teach them how to be producers and business owners. No, you taught them how to be consumers, because when they went to church, they consumed, they gave. Do y'all not realize that you don't just consume at the Piggly Wiggly or the Winn-Dixie or the Sears and Roebucks or the Jewel Oscars or whatever your stores are, the big box stores. You don't just consume at those stores. You also consume at your church. You didn't realize that. Yeah. We were trained that you cannot go before the Lord empty-handed. See here, good to see you. We were taught that you can't go before the Lord empty-handed. So we had to put some money in our pocket to go to church, to give it away. And in return, they gave us hope. hope that when we put our monies in that church, that for the rest of the week we would survive. And guess what? It worked. Because still today, those who are ultra tithe payers, and when I say ultra, I mean those who swear by it that you got to do it or else. Listen to their testimonies. They always say the same thing, that my bills are paid because I pay my tithes. Do you realize how silly and dumb those responses are when you're talking to somebody who don't pay tithe based off of this compulsory system that y'all created, and they are debt free? You know how many people who are debt free, who do not pay tithe, who their bills are paid, and you know why their bills are paid? Because they go to freaking work. They work a job like you, Mr. Tithe Payer. And you are victim of confirmation biases. You got to do it because it confirms your weakness and your inability to search the scriptures for yourself, your lack. And it's a sin to receive such a gift and reject it, knowing that this gift is going to help you and your family. That is a sin. It's crazy, y'all. So the pandemic came, shut your rhetoric down. Pastors who were only surviving off of the pennies of the church, the church couldn't pay the pastors, and the pastors had to go back to work. They had to find work because many of them hadn't had a job since 1950. So they had to find work, or they had to try to get on unemployment, or they had to try to pull out whatever Social Security they could get from the time they worked in 1981 for 5 years. They had to find a way. They couldn't survive. They had to go do bank loans. They had to go to the title loans and all kinds of stuff. Pastors who had to raise all that money could not pay their bills because they were leaning on the people. The pandemic showed us how many people in churches were swimming naked. And you worried about segregation? So I remember writing this January the 7th, 2022. I call it Prophecy Watch, number 6. All during the pandemic, I was giving these prophecy watches. I had a lot of fun doing them. And I called this one, Throw the Book at 'em. Each decade leave us with unprecedented memories. Towards the end of 2019, God lit the furnace pilot, and a strong wind blew in a viral enemy. 2020 started a new decade of revealings and exposure. The virus was the tool, and the church was tested. The wheat among you were plucked up to show the tares. He closed the church buildings, and the people scattered. The Lord separated you to protect you from further spiritual deception so that you could focus on the word of God. Where? In isolation, at home. Preachers was crying, talking about the government shut down these churches and y'all let them shut down the church. But what you did, preachers, was when you went home and you stayed at home, you didn't have not one Bible study with your children or your wife. You didn't do nothing in the neighborhood. No, you was leaning on one day of the week, Sunday, and then you blamed the government for shutting you down. You remember that God has made you a priest, 1 Peter 2:9. And so you began to study his word day and night in isolation while you were away from the temple. That's what you should have done. You discovered a scroll, 2 Kings 22:8, and you reminded your leaders on the oracles of God, and they rejected it. So I say, hey, be not discouraged. Josiah was only 8 years old when he became king of Israel, and when he received the message of the book of the law, he was disturbed by it, but then he insisted that they seek the Lord for answers. Instead of going to your typical men counselors and prophets, they instead found Huldah. She was a prophetess, y'all, and she didn't ask for seed offerings and $100 lines and all this stuff. She just flat-foot prophesied of what's to come unless the people repent of their what? Pagan practices. Y'all may not remember this. Upon hearing this, Josiah gathered the people and read from the book right in front of them. He instructed the people to remove any and everything that is not of God from the temple and their towns. And as you keep reading into chapter 23, you will see the utter boldness of these elders and priests who literally had satanic relics and rituals in the temple and in the streets of the holy city. Yet no one dared to correct them all of those years. And that's what I was doing, y'all. I was correcting these people. Nobody said, nobody knows. While you all are rebuking me for writing about musicians wearing hats in church on yesterday's post. This happened in 2022. You fail to see the foxes. How in the world did all these idols get into God's temple back then unchecked? These Ashtaroth poles were in God's house. I'll tell you how. The proverbial "don't judge me" screams, and it wins every time. So I said, here's the solution. Young leaders will rise and seek out the truth. Men try to shut the mouth of women in ministry, but God is getting ready to use them mighty in this decade. You pastors and leaders, start having Bible reading sessions with the people in open forums. Do not debate. Just read the Word of God. Don't debate it. Just read it. This is the problem with many of you on social media, content creators. We continually debate the Word. On Saturday nights, right here on this channel, we don't debate. I read it, I interpret it, and I go to bed at night. And most of them return to the vomit of deceiving the message. Right after the pandemic lifted, they went right back and did not realize that a reset was made. So people were saying that the devil sent the pandemic. But last I checked, when y'all are quoting from Chronicles 7, if my people which are called by my name and humble themselves, on and on, y'all like to quote it. He said, if I send pestilence. Who said that? That wasn't the devil talking. God says, I send disease and pestilence and endemics and pandemics. I did it. But people were blaming the devil. And then the confusion on taking the jab. We were fighting and being divided over the jab, were we not? We were fighting over that stuff. And all God wanted us to do was sit at home and study the scriptures. That's why I had stopped doing shows on that. Remember, I was doing shows on the pandemic and the jab and vaccines, all that, and then I stopped. I said, you know what? I made a decision. I'm going to do this and that because that's where my faith lie. Your faith lie on not doing this and that. And I said, that's the last show I'm going to do on that. And I stopped and ain't talked about it since. I stopped because God told me, stop. You part of the problem. Isn't tithing more than just in church, like helping your hungry neighbors or blessing a child with a pair of shoes or clothes if they need Marjorie Lemons? It's a good question. It's not called tithing, though. You are basically doing, God says, if you give to the poor, you're lending to me. You're basically doing missionary work. That's all you're doing. That's not a tithing. Tithing always in scripture is giving a tenth of your return, meaning if you were a planter, you took food and 10% of that, you gave it to the priests, the Levites, the strangers, the widows, blah, blah, blah. That was tithing. All right. But you only gave it to the strangers and the widows and the poor people every 3 years. Okay. All right. And that was only for people who were planters. Yes, Anissa, that's alms. You're giving alms. And so you could give a percentage of your time and you can fast and you can do whatever you want to do. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But contextually, tithing was food. And it was supposed to supply the needs of the priests and the Levites because they had no inheritance. You understand? That's all it is. It's just benevolent and missionary work. They had no inheritance. Well, there is no Levite system. There's no priestly system anymore. There is no national temple. It's all gone. So there is no need to do a tithing system. And the tithing system was always based off of the Mosaic law. There's nowhere in the New Testament that it was deemed. When Jesus mentioned it, the Mosaic law was still going on. He had not died. He had not been resurrected. So he was telling them, there's a temple still there. There was priests that were still in there. There were Levites that was in that temple. All right. Jesus went into that same place to whip the money changers. Where do you think he went? He went to the temple. And there was a veil that was still there while Jesus was on the earth. And then once he died, that whole system died with it. We brought it back because the Catholic Church wanted to build their temples. I got to go, you all. Movie night is starting at 8:30, 9:30 Central Standard Time. The movie tonight is called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's a great movie. It's one of my top 5 movies. Shawshank Redemption is one. Probably Forrest Gump might be number 2. Forrest might be number 1. Shawshank. I got 2 more. Oh, Singing in the Rain might be number 3. The Music Man might be number 4. And Oh Brother, Where Art Thou might be number 5. And sometimes it changes every year. And for those of you who are going to watch it with me tonight, you are going to hear in the movie a catchphrase that I use every time my bumper or my theme song plays. I got that little phrase from this movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? All right, meet us in about 2 minutes over there on patreon.com. All week long on Patreon, I'm going to talk about critical thinking. My class started this week on critical thinking, and I will be sharing with you all class notes and what have you in the upper room. Go to the upper room. Patreon Sirwalterj Jones show in the upper room, critical thinking this week. But in the morning times, I will be doing manna rooms. That's not a paid thing. That's a free thing. And we're going to be examining some of the philosophers of our day, like Shahid and a few other guys. I'm going to try to do that each morning around 9 a.m. All right? Obviously, I'm going to have to pre-record it because I don't get up that early. Okay. All right, so get ready for that. It's going to be a crazy week at Patreon. If you're not in the upper room and you want to sign up to the upper room, it's going to be a really good week. All right? Critical thinking week, because the Lord told me if I'm going to study this stuff, share it with the people, and that's what I'm going to do. All right? If you want to know anything about finances, what have you, the finance room is there as well. Piano room is there. All the rooms are there for your enjoyment, entertainment, and your learning. God, thank you for your presence. Thank you for your love. Thank you for the people who were here. You are an amazing, amazing God. We thank you for your love, and we thank you for what's happening in America so that the people can turn their faces back towards you, bow to you, knowing that you are the one you're everything. You're not the head of our life. You said that Jesus, who is our life. So God, we give our lives to you. And now that you are in us, when we walk up and down these streets, we thank you, God, for the people can see that we have been before the Lord. So we thank you, and we give your name the glory, and the praise is yours in Jesus' name, thank God. Amen and amen. All right, y'all, I got to go. I just finished watching a vid on tithing done by the late Billy Graham. It was good. All right, Billy Graham, what do you say about it? What do you say? I would also give the benevolence fund at the church. Oh, yes, I love giving to the benevolent funds. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, if you give to any form of giving your church, if you got a benevolent fund, you should do it. Looney Tunes and about musicians. Oh, really? I did a Looney Tunes show. I be doing these shows. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, y'all. Be over there on Patreon right now. I see you over there at movie night. Let's enjoy ourselves. It's a no judgment zone. We just go over there having a great time. I love my bunker family. Woo, and they love me. Feelings, nothing more than feelings. Trying to forget my feelings of love. We live in a feeling-oriented society, and sadly, that has spilled over into our churches. But feelings are unreliable. Emotions are untrustworthy. And they ebb and flow like the tides of the sea. The Christian who is forewarned and well-armed is a person not governed by feelings, but by what? The truth. And what kind of truth is that? It's the truth that he knows, that he stands on. He does not rely on his feelings to prove anything to him. Relying on feelings is precisely the error most people make in their lives. Feelings.
Fellas, does it seem like you can't get a good woman? Ladies, wonder why you can't keep a man? Then read The 4 Women That Men Desire, Volume 1, by Sirwalterj to figure out how to break the cycle. Go to Amazon.com to get your copy today.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?